Hello.
Hello, this is Cynthia Mazzaferro with Powerful Beyond Measure, and I'm bringing another wonderful author. Her name is Mia Bolte, and I am delighted to have her here telling us a little bit about her book and, more importantly, the work she's doing today. So, Mia, welcome.
Thank you, Cindy. I'm so glad to be here to get to talk about these inner world things and how they affect us every single day.
It's so important. It's emotional and spiritual well-being is really what creates that joy and happiness in our life. So it is paramount that we continue to reach out into the world and allow people to realize the tools and the ability they have within themselves to create this emotional balance. So we're going to talk about that in a minute. But before we get there, Mia, can you just share a little bit about yourself?
Yes, I'd love to tell you. So I come to you from beautiful Boulder, Colorado, and I'm one of those people who has the good fortune to really do work from the inside out. So I'm a teacher and a counselor. I teach counseling, and I really do all of that with the aim and hope that each of us could find and be inspired to live more from our inner good-heartedness.
Right. Wonderful. So what got you on this path of where you are right now?
I think I got lucky, I always say I just sort of landed here strongly, and it started, I think, with always being curious and a bit of a seeker in terms of how do we connect to each other? How do we stay in connection with ourselves? And how do we have some communication with the divine or God, you might say? So those things, even as a little girl, were really strong in me. I remember my grandmother at one point telling me that she was really having a communication with trees. And she's a very devoted Catholic woman. So I learned that a sense of the divine and God could include everything. And she modeled that range for me. And so I think it just sort of authorized me to be curious. So that's how it was more like, I want to know about this. And then it just happened that my work has aligned with that.
Beautiful. Now, if I can ask something personal, was there something in your personal life that had some emotional unhealthiness or that you had to work through yourself that allowed you also to grow and to learn? So when we counsel and coach others, we often use and can reflect back on our own understanding.
Yes, of course. So, I mean, I could point to many things in that camp. I will say, I think what's been challenging for me to work through is I grew up in a family that there was alcoholism.
Mhm.
And so, while it was really the saner version of that, it still really had an effect on me. And I didn't know that I could have needs and wants and requests based on having been in a system where we got focused around the drinking at
Mhm.
times. And so I really had to, I remember at some point said to me, well, what would you like? I was like, what? I get to say what I want, and you're
Right.
interested in that? So I really had to start from that level up for myself. And I would say it's how I've gotten really good at being in attention and in attunement to others, because I really know how to do it here. And to your point, it came out of, what we might call my own pain or my own difficulty. But in fact, that has opened into, I would say, my greatest gift.
It's true. We all have our past, which I talk about and we all talk about. And for me, it was my parents getting divorced at 7. And I had 4 other sisters. And every one of us viewed that divorce differently. My 9-month-old sister viewed it much different than my 9-year-old sister, who blamed my mother for not being a good enough wife. For me, it was about abandonment and always wanting this fatherly figure to verbally confirm me, which he wasn't there. So it was always this void. So every one of us are impacted and we have a different perception of
Yes.
how our past influences at that time. And it continues to perpetuate and repeat over in our life until we choose to have and do something about it. And so I thank you for sharing that about your personal part, because I think it connects with the viewer, the listener here, and for those readers that are reading your book, and we'll get to that in a minute, because it shows who you are, in that you're not, up in the clouds where everything's just hunky-dory. We all have a past, and we have the pain points.
Yeah. I want to pick up on something you said, and I love that example that there are these 4 points of view, or maybe 5. Are there 5 of you total in terms of
5 total? I have 4 sisters, so 5 of us. Yep.
Yeah. So it's such a great example, because any situation has at least 5 perspectives, right? So I often try to remind myself, if I hit one of those pain points around my family of origin, I try to remember, like, my brother has a totally different view of this. My mother does, my dad does, and then whoever else was observing, they think, another couple of things. So I'll actually try to remind myself of this. Like, it's not just the story I've created for myself. It could be a multitude of things. And taking that bigger view and remembering that I could step into one of those other sets of eyes has actually been really helpful to me.
It is, and it also makes it not you're the victim, like you're the only one that was persecuted, or the only one that had to take on this role. And again, I really believe very strongly, what I talk about is that, and I love your viewpoint, is that it's our perception, and that's aligned with what we're supposed to be spiritually learning and growing in our physical lifetime. Do you feel there's a connection as well?
Yeah, I probably talk about it a little bit differently, and I love the words that you used. My background is that I'm a Buddhist, and I've been to Buddhist seminary, so I have a lot of understanding of how the mind works. Buddhism is really most akin to Western psychology. So anyway, yeah, I would say it's karmic, that we're working a piece out, and we can trust that. As one of my meditation teachers says, you can trust your karma. In other words, I can trust what's happening to me, and I can trust that I see it in this shape and somebody else sees it in that shape, and that they all have value for our individual journeys.
Right. And also to empower the each of us, the person who's perceiving it, to realize that we can choose to have a different perception of what we're looking at or experiencing or feeling. And that allows us to have power, instead of looking at, oh my gosh, all this alcoholism around me, or oh my goodness, everyone walks out of my life. This is a perception, a viewpoint, and we can choose to stand on our head or take a different viewpoint and look at it differently, which really can change the way we respond to it instead of reacting to it. So I think this is really important. So tell me, why do you feel dealing with the emotional component, and if you want to bring the spiritual part in at the same time, that's fine. Why is this so relevant in really living a life that is vivacious and energetic and prosperous and happy, and all those words, those friendly words, happy words that we all crave? Why is the emotional part so important to that formula?
Well, you talked about it at the very beginning. You said, if you tend your emotional world, you can have joy. And so I think what's true is that there's an outer, and that's more like the work, my household, my obligations, commitments, family. And then there's the inner, and that's really that emotional, spiritual part of ourselves. And no matter how good that outer is, if my inner or emotional world isn't in good shape, I'm actually not going to be happy, satisfied, content, or enjoying my outer world. So I think that it matters, our emotional well-being matters, so that we can enjoy the fullness of what we're doing on the planet, whatever that is in everyday life.
It's so important. And, you can have your external life, as you call it, very happy and smooth and going without a hitch, or you can have a particular time in your life where there's lots of obstacles and potholes and everything seems to be hitting you over the head. Excuse me. And either way, how you're how you feel inside is going to really impact how you're going to interact, respond, and emotionally connect with that external world. And so let's dive into this the inner critic, the inner harmony. I like to call, we need to create our own sanctuary within ourselves, a harmony where it doesn't matter what happens outside the world. The circus outside of us can be there, and we can be someone, an attendee in the stands watching the circus, but we don't have to participate necessarily in it. So let you tell us how you like to attack, or how you like to find this inner harmony, this inner peace that you're talking about within.
Yeah, great. So I love that sanctuary idea. And in a lot of ways, this is one of the things I teach people is how do you actually develop your inner sanctuary? And for many people, they come to this from the route of, I feel terrible. I do have pretty good circumstances out here. And yet I doubt myself. I don't feel good about myself, whatever that is. So the inner sanctuary, often one of the bricks on the path to building between the yuck inside to the sanctuary is actually noticing I feel yucky, or I'm telling myself things or believing things on the inside, and that's what's running the show. So I think it begins with actually noticing how how am I approaching this? What is my attitude? How am I talking to myself? These sorts of things. Yeah, it's the mindfulness piece, or mindfulness and awareness. In
Right.
my yeah, in
Yeah,
my
and I agree with you. I think that a lot of my clients too, and people I interact with, students, they're there because they know they're not happy with some aspect. Sometimes it's the external world, and often it's also the internal world. Um, but what I find too is so often people don't want to take the action steps to remedy, whether it's the external or the interior or both, and don't want to make that commitment. They know they are drawn to this, they're being pulled into getting this information and trying to resolve. But when you actually give them that encouragement to take ownership, to find resolution, this is where people fall away. They don't want to put the time, they don't want to put the money into it. Money's always a big one. And it's really unfortunate, no matter how cheap you price it or even free, then there's no revenue exchange, there's no energy exchange where they don't really put the effort into it. So it's a very much a double standard. They want it, but then they don't really want to take the action. Do you find that also is often true?
It makes a lot of sense to me. Yes. I think I've been lucky in that I tend to have people around me who really do want to activate this. I think that's one of the great things about I'm adjunct faculty at Naropa University, which really prides itself on training their counselors from the inside out. So we ask people to be very personal and to do their own process work. I've got something popping up here, which I'm going to get rid of. It says I need an update.
I can't see it, so it doesn't matter.
Oh, good. We all need an update. That's what it was saying there. If people aren't choosing to update the sort of internal pain, yuck, whatever, it's for the reasons you've talked about. And they're really excuses, I think. Although I'll say I trust that as well. I trust that people they're going to get where they're going in their own time.
Right. And I agree with you because, it's not like it's a finish line. You have a race to win and you're going to get to the end and it's done. No, I thought I had dealt with my father issues many years before, and only to find that my husband came down one day and said, I love you, but I can't live with you anymore. It was like, oh my gosh, another man walking out of my life. We're still happily married, but it brought to understand that the energy from when I was 7 was still living within me.
Yeah.
The emotional energy. And it was actually in coming out in perspiration and what I was bringing out into the world without any understanding that I was doing that. and requesting things from others because I was trying to fill my tank from that outside in, from the Father who wasn't there, from other people. And so it's really important for everyone to realize that you're always evolving and growing. And that's what's so amazing about this process. You can take a horse to the water, but you can't make him drink. And you can't say how much he's going to drink. And the same thing is for all of us, right? We're all growing, we're all evolving, and being open. And I think you really said this importantly in the beginning. It's really you experiences this feeling, coming to a oneness that something isn't right, whether it's internal or external or both, and often it's both. Because once you sense that, then you can then choose to take action towards it, and that's so important.
Yeah, you've got it. I think it's an ongoing process. As you said, we don't cross the finish line.
Mm-hmm.
And what I have found and find for me is that I actually make this a practice. I'm just back from 2 weeks at the beach. I was at a glorious place on the Caribbean.
Nice.
And I really do that because I need to have times where I can just rest, let everything go, and cultivate a sense of naturalness and connection with nature.
Right.
And I also do some meditation and prayer and contemplation. And these are the things that keep me fueled, I would say. But it's not that I go on this holiday once and then I'm good. It's like I have 2 weeks to really do that. Right. Just the other day, 2 weeks ago, I was there for the beginning of the month. And then I have to keep up these practices that I energize while I have that time away. So yeah, it's ongoing. We have to really stay dedicated to, I think, tending our own sanity and our own wellness.
I love that, Mia. And I think you're right. I know myself, I have, you fall away from the routine of good self-care action, like you said, the meditation, whether it's contemplation, just quiet prayer, reading poetry or creative things, lots of different things. What do you find are some routines that you like to build into your life every day?
Yeah. Well, I really rely heavily on nature. It's one of the reasons I live here. I can be outside pretty much every day of the year. I'm from North Dakota and Minnesota and Montana, sort of that region. And, we have to stay inside for chunks of the winter because it's cold. So connecting with nature, I find that I like to start the morning by some contemplation or meditation. And then just one of the really simple things I do is I try to set my life up so that I don't have to rush.
Mm-hmm.
I think that one of the things that is really being called forth in me and many of us on the planet at this time is, how do we actually be in the world with some more gentleness? And I find that if I have too busy a schedule, too many things right after each other, I end up feeling rushed and hurried, and that sort of gentle, flowing, intuitive quality can't come through. So those are some of the things I do. I have practices I do very specifically for working with keeping myself sort of neutral and then working with my own instability. I often refer to that as the inner critic. And I actually have that. I'd love to share that with people. It's on my website, and that's Mia Bolte, BOLTE.com. And it's just 5 practices that I keep regenerating, doing again and again and again. And they're the things that I have found the most helpful to me in addition to what I just spoke of.
Can you share with us those 5 items for the inner critic?
Yeah. Well, let's see if I can. Do I know them off the top of my head? I do one of them together right here, which is to just do a little bit of grounding. I don't know if you've seen these right now there's a lot of press around grounding and how connecting to the earth actually has scientific backing now. These things we've known, our ancestors knew, of course, about being on the earth. But one of the ways to get that grounding is just to very simply, we can do this together here,
Great.
is just 3 rounds of breath. So if we just, sort of slow down and quiet, people like to close their eyes or open, whatever feels good, but just feel the in and the out of the breath at a natural pace. We start to slow down and we calm, and you can feel it as I do it. This is our body's natural way. We have a nervous system, a parasympathetic nervous system that is there to help us actually land, ground, and connect. And so how is it for you? I see you doing it.
Well, I've done lots of breath work myself as well, and it's so instrumental. When you think of it, as soon as we come out of the womb, what is the first thing that we do is the breath. And unfortunately, usually it's because you're being spanked and it's, so it's more of a catching your breath. And I've actually interviewed and know a person who actually talks about that as our first trauma into this world. And, we talk about breath work, which I think is so important. And we talk about breathing in through your nose and out through your mouth. It's a physical therapist, getting good oxygenation and exhaling the carbon dioxide, which nature needs. But we we don't really have to tell our brain to breathe in or breathe out. It does it on its own without any control. But what's really effective, and I know you probably agree with this, is that the exhalation is actually more important than the inhalation. So when you exhale, you're squeezing the balloon, pushing the air out. And the more you push out, the more you can breathe in. And so also that breathing out allows you to take out the stress that you're held in, the fright and the flight type response that you're energized and holding within, is that release. And so breathing is so elemental. I'm so glad you brought this up. And it seems like it should be so easy, but people don't want to slow down enough to find this peaceful contemplation time. And it's so important. So it doesn't cost you a thing. It only costs you time, and it's so valuable and it's so healthy for you.
Yeah, it's really essential, and for reasons that you're pointing to around birth or whatever the later hitches are in our life, actually many people don't know how to breathe in our natural way. And so learning, especially the exhale, is really important. Can we actually find our breath out and just feel that? There's metaphor and psychological implication, but if we set all that to the side, can we just feel, and what happens there? And if people are just willing to be present, even for that moment, often that can be convincing enough.
Right. And the Heart Study Group, the Institute in, I think it's in California or the Midwestern there, just placing your hands on your chest area, your heart, sternum area, actually creates all these wonderful endorphins and release of cortisone, the stress, you get rid of that stress, and it calms your heart down. It allows your lungs to expand more, and it's just so nurturing. So maybe we could just take a few minutes to do this with everyone in the audience. And just to let you know, your inhalation should be, breathing in, but your exhalation should be twice as long as your inhalation. Is that which you also agree?
Sounds great.
Okay, so let's just breathe in for 10 seconds and try to breathe out 20 seconds. And for some of you, this might be very difficult. I used to start coughing trying to blow out longer. It's not a forced exhalation. Don't you agree, Mia?
Yeah, you want to be as natural as possible. Yeah. And there's a suggestion that it's 1 to 2, but just do what you can.
Right.
Try to get a gold star for trying.
And also, you don't have to tell your brain, okay, now breathe in again. You might have a longer pause of not breathing either way. That's perfectly wonderful, actually, because your brain will automatically know when to breathe in. So, do you want me to go ahead and prompt this, or do you want to?
Go ahead.
Okay.
I want to
So,
experience.
let's all put our hands on our heart. And this is great. I knew I'd love speaking with Mia because we speak a lot of the same language, and I love hearing her viewpoint on many of the things we share. So let's all breathe in however you want, through your nose or your mouth. And you can continue doing that. But you notice with me, I purposely made my exhalations audible where you could hear the breath of the release. And I've been taught and trained that that is really a great way to facilitate a more conscious exhalation. Do you like that as well, Mia?
I think it's great. I would add, we know more about the vagal nerve now, and which is part of the body's way of helping us to calm and come into good social connection. And what we know is that if we make a little bit of sound, it lights up again this body part that is trying to help us do good and feel good in the world. So, yeah, I think any sound, it might be the huh, it might also be
Yeah.
it can really be whatever people want to sort of play around with. So, yeah, making some sound is a great idea.
And I've actually had clients when I've done this with them actually almost cry like a dog. It could be a whimpering sound of just releasing that, the hurt, the pain, and that's perfectly normal. And as you continue to breathe, you'll actually see the change of tonation of your volume, the value of how you breathe, and the tone that is emitted, because you're actually changing the energy around your breath. And it's really amazing.
It is. I observed just as you were doing it, you were both leading us and doing it. Thank you for that. Your face softened and got even a little like nice pink to it.
Great.
And this is so just to point out to people, like we could see it in your beautiful face, how even these 3 breaths that we were taking, there are actually immediate, noticeable results. And so we could all be encouraged that this is worth our time and energy.
And you're never too young or old to practice this. So if you're a mother and you have a 3 or 5-year-old, perfect. Awesome. Do this with them, because it's also giving your children, or if you're also have a mother that's 85 or 95 who doesn't have good lung capacity, is stressed and not happy with things, breathing together is a beautiful way to connect. And it's just so healthy for you. And it's so easy, but it's so important to really slow ourselves down. I think that's so important. I actually posted something on my Facebook page that had the big word worry on it. And, right now, if you're looking at this live, this video feed, it's this holiday seasons, Hanukkah, New Year's, Christmas, and all the things that are going on. A lot of stresses are happening. And the Facebook post was about worry. And it's when you eliminate worry that we can experience joy in our life. And we worry about everything and anything and things that aren't even there, but we worry. What can you help us with during these holiday seasons that you might be able to share with them?
Yeah, I actually just posted about this on my own blog because it is a time of year where I would say at least half the people I know and work with suffer.
Mm-hmm.
It is not an easy time. And so I think the number one thing that I like to say to folks is, could you please be empathic with yourself? So you don't have to make yourself wrong or bad for feeling uncomfortable or worried, as the case might be, to follow that example. Whatever's arising, whatever difficulty or pain is, to begin by being a good enough friend to yourself and saying something like, oh, I see that's happening, or that's going on, and just being present with it is a form of empathy. And I think we have to be so careful to not make ourselves bad or wrong, especially at this time of the year where, you know, if you go out in the world, everything looks like a glorious Hallmark
Mhm.
card or movie. And so people can feel pretty out of sync because of that. But I would say, please be kind and empathic with yourself around whatever your own pain is that's emerging.
That's so important. And it's a beautiful way to show compassion to yourself. And we need to do that. That's part of the self love, self care that we talk about so often. That's allowing you to create that inner sanctuary of peace where there is no judgment, no criticism. There's just, whatever your sanctuary in your mind can be, and whether it's in the ocean, the forest, the desert, dark room, white room, whatever room it is, anything, that's the place where there is no stress, there's no worry, it's just peace, and it's just love and compassion for yourself and others. And so I think that's really important. I think that was a great suggestion, Mia, to just show that compassion and peace of yourself. But acknowledging it does not mean you have to judge yourself, oh, I feel bad. Just accepting that. And that's getting to know yourself, being able to say, I can qualify how I'm feeling. I feel this word, and it's okay that I feel that way. Can I change my perception on it? Why am I feeling this way? Is it really true, or have I created it? Am I reacting differently? But by identifying it, that allows you to be empowered to decide, how do I want to respond to that emotion?
Yeah. Yeah. Identifying and accepting what's happening is different than cultivating it.
Mhm.
So it's important to identify and to accept, to be friendly and I think accommodating to myself without indulging that or blowing it up. So then again, taking that perspective of, okay, I feel bad about this. I think it's helpful too to remind ourselves around worry. When I'm worried, I'm generally not being here with you, present. You know, if I'm worried that I'm going to miss the next thing or not answer a question correctly, which is sort of my own inner critic is, I'm somehow going to get this wrong, right?
Oh,
If I'm worried about that, I take that whenever I worry, I take that as a reminder, just focus on what's right in front of you. And generally, what's right in front of me, if I use this moment, I've got this lovely woman with these beautiful blue eyes exchanging with me in a really kind way. And so to remind ourselves, okay, if I'm worrying, I'm not being present. In fact, I'm probably in the future. And
mhm.
what can I do to just come back? You know, again, identify, accepting myself, and then saying, I'm just going to come back here and focus on what's right in front of me.
Perfect. That's a great example. And it's nothing that was bad happening, but our mind can create so much chatter that we can all of a sudden not be present and not and really enjoy the conversation, because we're just having a wonderful conversation. It's no judgment, criticism, and we both are here because we love impacting others and empowering them to find this inner wisdom, this inner peace within themselves, and how that can positively impact their external life as well as their internal health. So I appreciate you sharing that little bit of how you typically wonder, am I going to answer right? Am I going to be right? Am I going to do right? And I think a lot of people can resonate with that, and they have maybe that same issue themselves. So thank you for sharing that.
Yeah. Yeah.
So I know you wrote a book. Do you have a copy of your book you can show, or?
I'd love to show it to you.
That's great. It's called Ultimate Freedom: The Keys to Passion, Purpose, and Prosperity. The three P's. I love that.
Yeah.
And where can people find your book?
Well, they can find it in lots of places, but of course they can find it on Amazon. And I'm so pleased to say that it's an Amazon bestseller.
Yay.
Yeah, so that's really cool. And the thing about this book is I wrote it with Vicky Helm, and Vicky's great. She's got a lot of expertise in the outer world. And so this book is really broad. We wrote it so that we could cover the big picture, from financial to social presence and well-being, to these pieces that I'm talking about, emotional and spiritual. So there's really like 7 books that could spin out of this one.
Exactly.
Uh,
For sure.
yeah, and I'm happy to let people know about it. And the piece that I really bring to this work is knowing that if the emotional and spiritual inner houses aren't in order, this has been my journey. I actually don't enjoy having as much money as I need. I don't enjoy these more outer world pieces. And so I keep putting my attention on really making sure my health, my emotional health, and spiritual well being are tended.
I love that. And I think it's so important. I just, I even myself, that I feel I'm present of mind. I love hearing you say it because I think it just is so important to continue to resonate there. We all want to have more clients or do more workshops or put on this and that. And that can become a stressor, if you will, because we want to be helpful. And realizing that the universe is bringing people to us as well, and we can just be peaceful in that and not worry about the numbers necessarily, because I think numbers often is what we equate to success and prosperity, and in fact does not always mean that.
No, I think it doesn't. I think, we could have a really strong impact here today with, 2 to 15 people. And even if 3 million people are tuned in, it's really who's really getting the juice out of this. Yeah. Yeah.
So true. It's so true. So if you're watching this, feel free to share this video and on your Facebook page, a family friend, because we're all here. We're all teachers and we're all students of the same life, learning the same thing, which is actually self-love, and how we can share our love, our light into the world and impact them in a positive way. So
Yes.
do you have a famous quote or a special message you want to leave us with today?
Uh, a famous quote. What I'll say is that I believe that gentleness is the most important thing we could be paying attention to and cultivating right now. And that the more that we find that for ourselves, actually, the more benefit that we can be to others. So, gentleness. I'm calling forward a gentleness revolution.
I love that. And we don't really hear people talk about that. I think
Mm-hmm.
it's a beautiful, simple word that is just, there's just a beautiful energy to that. I mean, being gentle, oh my gosh. What it does it take to be gentle with ourselves and others in situations? It's like, it's really effortless. There's less to do when you're gentle.
It's so true. So I want to invite everybody. I made a little guide to
Great.
the 5 gentleness practices, and I would just invite people to get this. We put some little color pieces here so that you can cut them out and put these reminders on your microwave and your dashboard or wherever you want them. And there are 5 practices, and the more, I would just say, the more that we do these things regularly, the more access we have to gentleness, kindness, and goodness when we need it, when we're under stress and having a tough moment. So please go ahead and grab this from my website, which Cindy will post whenever this video goes up. And I would say to remember that when we're doing these self-love care practices, it might seem as though I'm doing them just for myself, but make no mistake, the better I am, the better everything is around me.
That is so true. You're not just transforming you, you're transforming your energy, the life that the interaction, even the outcome, even your future. It is exponentially riveting, and it changes every part of your life. So, for sure. For sure. So again, I will write the link down, but it's Mia Bolte, BOLTE.com. And you can pick up this wonderful gentleness 5 tips of how to be gentle and create this in your life. It's free. And so I encourage everyone to take advantage of it. It's a wonderful stocking stuffer. This has been great. Mia, I've really enjoyed speaking with you, and I would love to come out to the boulders. I've been there once. It is amazing, the energy. It's Sedona. I've been there. It's beautiful. Maybe we can connect and run a workshop or something out there.
I love it. And Cindy, I want to just thank you, because it's so clear from meeting with you and your own book and the goodness that you're putting out there that you're really offering something of value and helping people to know their own wellness. So keep going.
Thank you, and much kudos for you and your work and passion and the gentle heart that you bring to your clients and everyone that's listening to this. May we all connect to our inner, beautiful, gentle heart and have that compassion to ourselves and to others. And remember to breathe and find time for you to contemplate. And then you will find and see how powerful you really are. So have a beautiful day. Thank you for spending time with me. Again, I'm Cynthia Mazzaferro with Powerful Beyond Measure, and this is Mia Bolte. And again, her book is Ultimate Freedom, The Keys to Passion, Purpose, and Prosperity. Happy holidays, and we'll see you another week. Take care.
Bye-bye.